Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram. So now we will enter into the section where it will be discussed about the realization of the Brahma Jnana, the attainment of the knowledge of Brahman through the study of the Mahavakyas. So we know that there are famous 4 Mahavakyas, the great truths which we find in the Upanishads, in the Vedanta. What are they? They all speak of the identity of the self with the absolute reality, the Brahman. So what are they? Prajnanam Brahma, the Brahman, the ultimate reality, which is the essence of our being, the Brahman is intelligence, that is Prajna, Prajnanam Brahma. This we find in the Aitreya Upanishad. And then in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad we find Aham Brahmasmi, that I am Brahman. This again speaks of the identification of the core of my being with the absolute reality. Aham Brahmasmi, that I am Brahman. And then in the Chandogya Upanishad, there is another Mahavakya which comes about 19 times in the Chandogya Upanishad, that Tattvamasi, that you are that. Means Tvam means you, Tat means that. The absolute reality, Brahm, that here actually that means Ishvara. There's a difference between Brahman and Ishvara. Here Tat indicates that Ishvara, Tvam indicates the Jiva. So they are saying that in essence the Jiva is nothing but Ishvara. They are identical. This is the Chandogya Upanishad. And in the Mandukya Upanishad, the another Mahavakya we find is Ayam Atma Brahma, that this self is Brahman. So we find that all the 4 actually speaks of the identification of the self with the absolute reality. So now, from the 241st verse, we will study the Mahavakya Tattvamasi, which we find in the Chandogya Upanishad, Tattvamasi. So from 241st verse onwards, we will study this Mahavakya, so that through this study of this Mahavakya, one can ultimately attain the knowledge of Brahman, the Brahma Jnana. So let's start with the study of the 241st verse of the Vivekachudamani. So what it is saying? Tat tvam padabhyam abhidhiyamanayoho brahmatmano shodhitayoho yadi ittham srutyatayoho tattvamasi iti samyak ekatvam eva pratipadyate muhu. So the first line, what it is saying? Tat tvam padabhyam abhidhiyamanayo brahmam atmanoho. Brahmatmanoho. What it means? This tat and tvam in the Mahavakya Tattvamasi, these two pada, these two words, the tat and the tam. So this, what it indicates? The Ishvara and the Jiva. These 2 words, they indicate, abhidhiyamanaya means indicate. It indicates what? This, the Brahman and this Brahmatmana, Brahma and Atman. The Brahman and the Atman is indicated by Tat and Tvam. And then what it is saying? Shodhitayoho yadi ittham. Now, in this, from this verse onwards, we are going to determine the meaning, examining the meaning and determine the meaning of these 2 words, Tat and Tvam. Shodhitayo. Shodhitayo means to purify. The purification is very important here, this word, because we will find that what differentiates me from Ishvara is just the attributes. All the things which are superimposed on Ishvara, all the things which are superimposed on Jiva, that is the cause of the distinction between Ishvara and the Jiva. In essence, both are the consciousness and consciousness alone. So Shodhitayo speaks of this purification. It speaks of just like the way we purify the metal, this ore to get the pure metal. So here the Shodhitaya speaks of that. You are purifying the ore to get the metal, the essence of our existence. So Shodhitaya yadi itham. So both of this, Tat and Tvam, has to be purified. All the attributes has to be cleansed, has to be removed, eradicated, to find in essence the true nature of Tat and Tvam. And then what he's saying in the second line, Srutya tayo tattvamasi iti samyak ekatvam eva pratipadyate muhuhu. So the oneness alone will be repeatedly well established by the Shruti Tattvamasi. So in Chandogya Upanishad, as we find that 9 times, total 9 times in Chandogya Upanishad, this Tattvamasi, this sentence comes. Tattvamasi. So this repeated instruction, Tattvamasi, that 9 times this instruction which comes in the Chandogya Upanishad. So why it has been so much repeated? Because its purport is to establish the oneness of the Tat and the Tvam, of the Jiva and the Ishvara. So in the sentence Tattvamasi, the word Tat is what? That means the Brahman as qualified by creation, preservation, destruction. So that speaks of Ishvara. The Ishvara is the one who is the creator, he is the one who is preserving, and at the end of the cycle, he destroys. An ordinary Jiva cannot do that. So these are the attributes of Ishvara. So in the sentence Tattvamasi, the Tat represents that Brahman qualified by creation, preservation, and destruction. And what Tvam means, it indicates the individual soul, the Atman, which is by what it is qualified? It is quantified by the mental states of Jagrat, Swapna, Shushupti. But as an individual being, we find that we are going through these 3 states. We cannot think of anything apart from these 3 states. Either we are in the waking state, or we are in the dream state, or we are in the deep sleep state. So these are the 3 states which defines the Jiva. So these are the things which qualifies, the Jiva is qualified by the mental states of Jagrat, Swapna, Shushupti, waking, dream and deep sleep. So what they are indicating? So these first attributes of creation, preservation, destruction, that indicates the Ishvara. And the mental states, these are all similar. You will see that destruction is just of Ishvara, is just like the deep sleep state of the Jiva. The entire creation ceased to exist. But has it vanished? No. It remains in the seed form. So similarly, at the end of the Kalpa, when the entire creation is destroyed, it's not annihilation. It goes to the seed form. Just the way for an individual in a deep sleep state, everything remains in the mind. The mind doesn't become vacant. The moment I wake up, they again manifest. It was in the dormant state. So what is deep sleep state for an individual? That is the destruction for the Ishvara in the collective form. And then the dream state. The dream state speaks of the mind. The creation. The creation happens in the mind, entire creation. So the creation speaks of the state of the dream, and this Jagrat state speaks of the this preservation, what this universe which I am seeing. So these are what you say, this similar thing. What is happening in the collective as creation, preservation and destruction, in the individual level it finds expression as Jagrat, Swapna, Shushupti. And then these two terms, Tat and Tvam, now has to be examined. Now in the succeeding verses, we will be examining the meaning of Tat and Tvam, and then we will be purifying it, the Shodhitam. We will be just exterminating all the things which are just the attributes which has been superimposed on it, to find out in essence the nature of Tat and Tvam. So these two terms, Tat and Tvam, which indicates the Ishvara and the Jiva, that has to be examined as has in the apport this and found to be of the nature of, we will find that after we remove the attributes, both are the same pure intelligence which is the substratum of the entire existence. So by the expression of Tattvamasi, this absolute identity between Tat and Tvam will be affirmed through the Chandogya Upanishads. As we told, about 9 times it has been affirmed. So before entering into the discussion, we will just give a very simple example, as has been stated by Swami Vivekananda in one of his lectures. What he's saying, just take a mold of clay. With a mold of clay, I prepare a clay elephant. With the same mold of clay, I prepare a clay mouse, and clay elephant and a clay mouse. He is saying the clay elephant can never become the clay mouse. The clay mouse and the clay elephant are eternally different. But as clay, they are both same. I can never, when I say Tattvamasi, I am Ishvara. Not that many will say it is a blasphemy. That how can I be Ishvara? Ishvara is a creator, preserver, destroyer. I am a limited being. I don't have that capacity. Then how can you say you are Ishvara? Not that as per the attributes are concerned. In essence, just the way that the clay mouse can never become the clay elephant, but both the elephant and the mouse, they are nothing in essence but the clay and clay alone. So that's what Swami Vivekananda is speaking of in one of the lectures. This is the idea which we have to keep in our mind when we go to the succeeding verses, slokas, to understand the identity of the Jiva and the Ishvara as has been propounded by Shankaracharya while establishing the Advaita Vedanta. So what he's saying in the 242nd verse, Aikyam tayoho lakshitayoho na vachyayoho nigadyate anyanyo viruddha dharminaha khadyot bhanva eva rajabhrityayoho kupa amburashyoho paramanur mervoho. So now they are saying, see, we are going to establish the identity of the Jiva and Ishvara. But it is just like trying to establish the identity between Khadyot Bhanya. What it speaks of, Khadyot Bhanya. Khadyat means, Khadyat is the glowworm, and Bhanu is the sun. It is just like trying to establish the identity of a glowworm and a sun. So as per the attributes are concerned, there is a huge difference. Glowworm, just a very some mild light it gives. The sun is illuminating the entire earth. So it's just like comparing the glowworm and the sun. Khadyot Bhanya. And what? Rajabhrittayo, the king and the servant. Kupa Ambu Rashya. Ambu Rashya is the Amburashi. Amburashi means this reservoir of water. Ambu is water. So that speaks of the ocean. And Kupa speaks of a small well. It is just like comparing a small well with the ocean. And Paramanu and Meva. What Meva speaks of is earth. The earth is the Meva, and the Paramanu speaks of an atom. It is just like comparing an atom with the earth. So what it is speaking? That in the matter of this comparison between Jiva and Ishvara is what like? These 4 distinctions has been made. Khadyad Bhanya. So just like the glowworm and the sun, what it is indicating? That the jiva is having a limited knowledge, that sun and the glowworm both illumines. Illumination is something equivalent to knowledge. Knowledge illumines. The same way, that's why they have taken the example of glowworm and sun. Just the way glowworm has a very limited capacity of illumination, and the sun has an almost infinite capacity of illumination. Similarly, a jiva has limited knowledge. Ishvara is omniscient. He knows everything. There's infinite knowledge. So it's just like comparing the glowworm and the sun. So that way we are saying that a jiva, we are comparing a jiva of limited knowledge with Ishvara of infinite knowledge, the omniscience of Ishvara. And then the Bhritya and the master and the servant. What it is Raja Bhrityaya. What is Raja? He is the one who gives the order, and Bhritya is the one who obeys the order, isn't it? So here also, like the jiva, they have to follow that Ishvara. When the creation happens, the absolute reality finds expression as this universe. This universe is nothing but Shakti, energy. And that energy finds expression as laws, rhythm. So Ishvara is the one from whom all the laws have originated. So he is the one who fixes the laws. So he is the one who is as if delivering the order. And as a jiva, we all have to follow. We have to follow the laws. There is no other way. So we are all bound by those laws. So that's why we are like the servants. So that's why Raja Bhrittaya. The jiva is just like the Bhritya, and Ishvara is like the Raja. And then Kupa Amburashaya, well and the ocean. It speaks of the happiness. Our happiness is just like a limited resource of water. And the Ishvara's happiness is a perpetual bliss. It's like the ocean. It's like the vast ocean. So as per the bliss factor is concerned, jiva is having very limited bliss. And that finds expression in Ishvara as something infinite, perpetual bliss. So it's like comparing that. And then this last they are saying is the atom and the earth. Paramanu Meva. Meva. This Meru. What is this earth? It speaks of like something which is pervading everything. Something non-local. And Paramanu is something very particular, limited in time, space. It is a very small portion. So Jiva is something local and Ishvara is something non-local, all-pervading. So it is something like comparing something particular with something which is universal. So now, this is the thing which is being indicated here, that these two, the Jiva and Brahman, are mutually opposed. We find they are opposed. This Anyanyo Viruddha Dharmina. Their dharma is almost opposite, poles apart. And that's the example they gave, this like the glowworm and the sun, like the Raja and the Bhritya, like the Kupa, like the well and the ocean, and like the atom and the entire earth. So now by the sentence Tattvamasi, that identity is affirmed between these two, this apparent contradictory, apparent duality. This Tattvamasi is speaking of the identity of these two. And this we have to understand that it is not just the literal meaning, but there is an implied meaning. That's implied means lakshitayoho. So this Sanskrit word we have to understand, lakshitayo, it's laksha. It is implying something, not vachya. It is not the literal meaning. So if I take the literal meaning, it appears to be something incongruous. There's no meaning in it. How can a jiva be just identical to Ishvara? We find it is, as far all the qualities are concerned, they are diametrically opposite. One is limited, one is unlimited. How can there be identity? So if I take the vachya, the literal meaning, then this riddle can never be solved. I have to take the lakshitaya, its implied meaning, what actually it implies, what actually it is indicating. So that this implied meaning has to be understood. And to understand this implied meaning, what we have to do? This all the upadhis, the things which are superimposed on consciousness to constitute a being called Ishvara, and all the attributes which are superimposed on an individual being to define it as a jiva, this has to be removed. So this all the opposition comes because of the attributes, not the essence. The essence is the same. It is the attributes, the things which have been superimposed, that creates the opposition. That will be stated in the next verse. What it is saying, 243rd verse. Tayo virodha ayang upadhi kalpitah na vastavah kaschit upadhi esha ishasya maya mahat adi karanam jivasya karya srinu panchakosham. So what it is saying, that this opposition between Ishvara and Jiva, Tayo virodha, Tayo means between these two, Jiva and Ishvara. Tayo means between these two. The virodha, the opposition, is imagined, is kalpita because of the upadhis, is upadhi kalpita. This opposition is because of the upadhi, because of the thing which has been superimposed. Tayo virodha ayang upadhi kalpita. So these upadhis are not real. Na vastava kaschit upadhi esha. So this Sanskrit is very simple, that these upadhis are not real. So then, Srinu, now listen, what is saying? Maya, which is the cause of Mahat, etc. So is Ishvara's Maya. What are the upadhis of Ishvara? It is he who is the Mayadhish. His is the Maya. And what is the upadhi of the Jiva? The Panchakosha. The attributes are the Panchakosha. So that's what is indicated here. So Maya, which is the cause of Mahat, etc., is the upadhi of Ishvara. And Ishasya Maya Mahat Adi Karanam. And then the 5 Shidhs, the Panchakosha, which are the effect of Maya, are the upadhis of Jiva. So God is the cause, Jiva is the effect. So Jivasya Karyam Srinu Panchakosham. So this Karana, Karya. Ishvara, Maya is the Karana, and as Karya it is finding expression as the Panchakosha of the Jiva. But both are the superimposed, both are upadhis. So this opposition is because of these upadhis, because of the thing which is superimposed. So Ishvara's Maya is the cause which constitutes. So this here in the verse it is mentioned Mahat Adi. What Mahat Adi means? Mahat, etc. So when this ultimate conscious principles come, what you say that is shrouded by Maya, then what are the things? Because of Maya, the first evolutes, as we have already studied, even in Bhagavad Gita, what they speak, Mahat, and then Ahankara, Mana, Panchatan Matra. So total 8. So even this, you will find that in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which we are studying now, they say that the apara prakriti of God is 8-fold. What are they? This buddhi, ahankara, mana, and this panchatanmatra. This is 5 plus 3. What are the 3? Buddhi is mahat, and then ahankara, mana, these 3, and panchatanmatra. So these are the products of Maya. What actually it's speaking of? So these are the things where we find that it is a bit technical, but if we try to understand from the individual level, we will find it's not that difficult to understand. What it's speaking of? That our mind is not the tabula rasa, it's not a vacant mind. Let us take the deep sleep state, that to understand the collective, let us take the individual, because in Vedanta this is the idea. That what's the idea? That the microcosm and the macrocosm are built in the same plan. So if I can study the microcosm, I can understand the macrocosm. So let me study the microcosm, the individual. So our mind is not vacant. When I'm in deep sleep, the world has vanished for me, isn't it? But is it really the mind is vacant? No. What has happened? All the impressions are there in dormant state in the mind. The dormant state in the mind. Now there are two types of impressions. What are the two types of impressions? That when I see and when I am perceiving anything, all the five senses bring in their sense objects and they make it a whole, to perceive it as a whole. To give an example that how perception happens. When you are watching the movie in a movie theater, in the screen the characters are conversing. Actually in the screen only the lips are moving. Conversation is not there in the screen. The screen is silent. Somewhere the sound box, it is not in the screen, it is somewhere else. From there the sound is coming. But when we are watching the movie, what I feel, the characters are conversing. So what is happening? That what is in the screen that is being perceived by my eyes, what I hear in the sound box that is perceived through the ears, in the mind, these two are made a composite whole to give me a feeling that that character is speaking. That's what happens. As simple as that. So, in the mind there are two types of impressions. What is what? All the piecemeal perceptions first has to be perceived. That the video I have to see and the sound I have to hear. These two are separately registered in the mind. This separate registration which is going on in the mind are called tanmatras. Let us try to understand in a simple way. Tat matra. Only that. That when I see the entire thing, the characters are talking, it's a composite whole. But actual perception, how is it happening? Is it happening in the mind in one place as a composite whole? No. I see through my eyes, I hear through my ears. These two are separately perceived in the mind. So in the mind, two types of functions are there. All the piecemeal perceptions are happening. These piecemeal perceptions are taken together and presented to the buddhi, nishchayatmika buddhi. Then another type of impression is in the mind. When this in my mind I see a character, lips are moving, and some sound is coming, that some sound is there. This too is taken together and given to the buddhi, and the buddhi says that character is speaking. Same thing happens with every perception. When I am seeing a red flower, the redness is perceived separately, the form, the shape of the flower is perceived separately. It's not all together. The fragrance is perceived separately. If I am touching the flower, its texture is perceived separately. And all these separate perceptions are presented to a search engine in the mind. So these are the perceptions. Please make it together and give me an impression. So in the mind itself, there is another impression hidden there. All these perceptions, when I make it together, it is a red rose. So there are two types of impressions. One is these piecemeal perceptions, which is perceived by the mind, and then this mind makes a composite of all these piecemeal perceptions, presented to the buddhi, and then again in the storehouse of the mind, the composite, the impression of the composite is already there. The idea of the red rose is already there. And then I feel, this is the red rose. So now you will understand that when I am in deep sleep, what happens? When I wake up, first ahankara, I become aware of my individual existence, ahankara, that first comes out. And then my indriyas open up. They are perceiving. There's a red flower, I perceive. First, all the piecemeal perceptions happen in the mind, mana. See, tanmatras, they all come together and the mana perceives them separately. and then the mana presents it to the buddhi. Now the buddhi, another type of impression is there. This composite is nothing but the rose. So these piecemeal perceptions were the redness, its softness, its fragrance. These were the piecemeal perceptions. That was in my mind. That became activated, and all these activated impressions together is given to the buddhi. Now buddhi makes it a composite whole and says, oh, this is a red rose. So just see how the entire creation is happening. It's not outside there. It's all in my mind. When I wake up, the external world is just a suggestion. First ahankara, that manifests, and then the indriyas are taking in the stimuli and making the perception happen, and then the buddhi says this is the red flower. So the external world which you are seeing is nothing but already in the mind. The external world is just a suggestion. And then this idea of the red flower comes. Now what's the role of ahankara here? Now ahankara decides what I am going to do with that red flower. As per the past impressions, if I am a devotee, I may pluck it and offer it to the divine. If I am just an aesthetic person, I may still pluck it, but instead of giving it to the divine, I may keep it on the living space in the vase. Or if I am just a gardener, I don't want to pluck it. I get inspired, I get motivated to take care of the plant so that more rose may come. So these various type of reactions happens because what I perceive, now that is interacting with the ahankara. Now you will say that what is being spoken of, that because of this thing, Maya, which is constituted, that the evolutes of the Maya are what? The Mahat, that is of the Buddhi, Ahankara, Mana, and Panchatanmatra. This world as if is created. So, it's actually something from within to without. If you try to understand, you will find it in a very nice way. Only the terminologies we don't use. Actually, the analysis is wonderful. So now you will find that Ishvara, because of his Maya, has created this world. Why we are saying Ishvara, not me? Yes, it is something collective. If it was me who was creating, then there would have been chaos. That when I say a flower is red, you also say the flower is red. 99% of population will say the flower is red. Means all are perceiving it in the same manner. That speaks of the default mind. That's how we can interact with each other. If all of us were creating the world in our own way, there would have been chaos. Then we couldn't have interacted with each other. So this all is happening in the collective mind. That's why all our perceptions tally. That's why we can interact. Yes, there are few aberrations. There are a few are colorblind, may see it differently. But they actually are the biggest proof of the fact that everything is happening on the mind. That's why nowadays they say that he is a bit different. They never say that he is having some defect. Because all of us are projecting the world from within. He is also projecting, but he is projecting in a different way. That's why he is a bit different from us. We won't say he is defective. He is different. So, this is the idea that Ishvara's Maya, which constitutes what? Nothing but this Mahat. Mahat is Buddhi, Ahankara, Mana, and Panchatanmatra. And what is the Jiva? The 5 shits. Our identification with the body, with the Pranamaya Kosha, with the vitality, with our mind, with our intellect, and with the bliss, the Anandamaya Kosha. That constitutes the Jiva, which we studied in an elaborate way just before entering this section. So, this is the 5 shits, which is the effect of the world. First the world is created, and in our process of interacting with the world, we become aware of our identity, false identity with this Pancha Kosha, 5 layers of our individual existence. So this is the effect and that is the cause. So that's what is being indicated here. So this has been stated even in the Shvetashvara Upanishad. So these are a bit technical, but if you try to understand, the interesting thing is that what a wonderful analysis was done this thousands of years back, the mind was really studied in a wonderful way to come to this type of analysis. And then they are going to that spiritual side of it, that after all this, see, there's something which is beyond our capacity. What that? The world which we see outside is Ishvara's Maya. I don't have any capacity to see it in a different way. The way he is making us see, I have to see that. But at the same time, it is not there as such. Maya. Maya means, ma means negation, ya means yatha yatha. The thing is, what I am seeing is not there outside as it is. It is because of God's Maya it has been created. And then when I am interacting with this Maya, we have to interact, then I become aware of my identification with these five shades of existence. So this is the effect. So that's been indicated. These are all the great contribution of Shankaracharya is what he has done. He has taken everything from the Shruti. So that's the authenticity of Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya's works. So there is Shruti Shastra and Smriti Shastra. In Smriti Shastra, there are many things. Whether it is authentic or not, how can it be proven? If we find something as a reference to the Shruti, then the Shruti is okay. Otherwise, Smriti can never be taken as authoritative. What Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya has done, he has taken the Shruti as the only authority. He has not as such resorted much to the Puranas, the Itihasas, no. In Purana Itihasa we find that this mentioned that there are beings who have lived for 10,000 years, 20,000 years. But in Shruti you will never get. In Vedas you will never find that. It is mentioned Shatar Ayu, the man is 100 years. Jiji Viset Shatang Sama, even in Ishopanishad. They will find it is more something speaking of practically. There is no allegory, nothing of imagination. So Shankaracharya's commentary is based on the Shruti, this Shruti. So that's why it's very authentic. So here again, that when he is saying that these two upadhis, this Ishvara is the Karana and Jiva is the Karya, he is again referring to from Shetashwara Upanishad, where it is mentioned Karya Upadhi Jiva Karana Upadhi Ishvara. Very specifically as mentioned. That is cause. Cause is the Ishvara and the effect is the Jiva. This Karya Upadhi Jiva, Karana Upadhi Jiva. The Jiva is the effect for his upadhis and the Ishvara has the cause for his upadhis. So now after saying this, so now we understand that why these two Jiva and Ishvara are diametrically opposite. It is because of the thing which has been superimposed. So now into 44th verse what it is saying? Etau upadhi parajivayoho samyak nirase na paro na jivo. It's a very, very bold statement. Now he's going. Rajyang narendrasya bhatasya khetakaha tayo apohe na bhato na raja. So if you remove the attributes, everything becomes the same. Etau upadhau paro jivayo. Paro is the Ishvara and Jiva speaks of this individual being. So these upadhis are of the Jiva and the Ishvara. So when these upadhis are removed, samyak nirase, when you remove them totally, then what happens? Then there is neither Ishvara nor Jiva. Na paro, na Jiva. Both have vanished. Na paro. So this is a very bold statement. They are saying how long Ishvara is, as long the creation is. As long I am, Ishvara is. When I am not, Ishvara is also not there. So in Advaita Vedanta, they deny the existence of, in ultimate sense, of Ishvara. Na jivo, na paro. Rajyang narendrasya bhatasya khetaka. That what defines a king? His sovereignty, his kingdom. And what defines a warrior? His shield. The sword and the shield. This khetaka. Bhata is the warrior. Khetaka is the shield. So warrior is defined by the shield and the king is defined by the kingdom. Now suppose the enemy attacks and the king loses his kingdom and the warrior also is imprisoned. Both are imprisoned. The king is imprisoned and the warrior also is imprisoned by the enemy king. Both are in jail. The king has lost his kingdom, and as this warrior has to surrender, all his armor, weaponaries has been taken away. So neither he has the shield nor he has the sword. So now in the jail, is there any difference between the king and the warrior? Both are same now. What was the cause of the distinction? He was the one who was the sovereign king. His was the kingdom. The kingdom has been taken away. His was all the weapons that has been taken away. Now both are same. There is no difference. So Rajyang Narendrasya Bhattasya Khetaka. This for Narendra, for the king, Rajya is the upadhi. For Bhatta, for the soldier, Khetaka, the shield, the armor, the shield is the upadhi. Tayo upohe. When you take away these both, na bhatto, na raja. Can you now say a king without a kingdom? Is he any more a king? No. A warrior without his weapon? Is he a warrior? No. So they are neither the king nor the warrior. So now the question is how to realize the self by negating the upadhis. So you'll find that these are the very, very pertinent ideas of this Advaita Vedanta. Is how to realize the self by negating. That at last I find that I am identified with the absolute reality. How it is possible? If you take away the upadhis. That will be answered in the 245th verse. What is saying? Athata adesha iti srutihi. So everywhere Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya is referring to the Sruti as the source of authenticity. That it is athata adesha iti srutihi swayam nishedhati brahmani kalpitang dvayam sruti pramana anugrihita bodhat tayo nirasah karaniya eva. So what it is saying? Athata adesha iti srutihi swayam nishedhati brahmani kalpitang dvayam. The first line. So this athata adesha is actually he's referring some Shruti. It's a passage from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. The famous passage where it says athata adesha neti neti. So he's referring to that. When he says athata adesha, he's actually referring to that Brihadaranyaka mantra where it is mentioned athata adesha neti neti na iti na iti. So why neti neti? This word has been repeated twice. That all the things which are superimposed on Ishvara, that is not the reality. What all the things which are superimposed on the Jiva, that again is not the reality. That's why neti neti twice. To eradicate all the superimpositions altogether. Samyak. Samyak means in totality. So this is all this superimpositions has to be removed both from Ishvara as well as from Jiva. So it is swayam nishedhati. So this nishedhati means when it forbids the attribution. When I am forbidding, I am just not allowing the attributes to be imposed on Ishvara and Jiva. Then what happens? Then the duality is denied. This Brahmani kalpitang dvayam, the duality in the Brahman. The Brahman, as in the Yoga Shastra, as in the Sankhya, that Purusha Prakriti, this duality speaks of duality. So here he is saying that duality is denied. The moment you take away the attributes, the things which has been superimposed, it only Brahman alone remains. So everything, all the duality is just kalpana, imagination. So Brahmani kalpitang dvayam is nishedhati. You are denying. Nishedhati means denying all these imaginary dualities thought to be superimposed on Brahman. So duplication in the form of this duality is to prohibit this or that the duality of all the perceived objects. Whatever I am seeing is actually Brahman and Brahman alone. So whatever is apprehended as this, whenever I am pointing out and saying this is A, this is B, this is C. So whenever I am using the word this, whatever to whatever thing I am using, know it for certain it is nothing but Brahman and Brahman alone. It is only the attributes that makes the difference. That nama, that as in the Chandogya Upanishad it has been mentioned, that mrittika iti eva satyam, vacharambhanam namadhyam. All the pots which I made of this clay, the only thing which differentiates them is the name and the form. Namadhyam, vacharambhanam. It is just a figure of speech. I have used a particular language to distinguish one thing from the other, as based on its shape, I have given a particular name. Beyond the shape, what it is? Mrittika. It is the clay and clay alone. So that's the idea here is being indicated. So all the dualities are kalpana, or something imagination. So Shruti Pramana Anugrihita Bodhat Tayo Nirasa Karaniya. So one needs to, so what's the duty? So analytically we have to now eliminate these two superimpositions. Impositions on Ishvara and on the Jiva. Tayo. Nirasa. We have to eliminate by means of realization supported by the authority of the Vedas. It is not something which is just a self-styled procedure devised by Shankaracharya. No, he's saying, I am just stating this from the Shruti and Shruti alone. It's all there in the Vedanta. I am just bringing it out from there to present it to you as the methodology. So you have to take out the attributes of the Ishvara and the Jiva. Then what happened? So as the Shruti itself forbids the superimposition. In the Shruti itself, in the Vedanta, they are forbidding the superimposition. And that's why he's saying this twice. This neti has been mentioned. That first neti speaks of the superimposition on Ishvara, that in respect of Ishvara, and the second neti speaks of superimposition on the Jiva. It is a Shruti which is speaking of. So based on the Shruti, we have to get rid of the superimposition so that we can realize our identity with the absolute Brahman. So the negation has to be done in the following manner. What is the way it has to be done? Nedang, that's 246th verse. Nedang kalpitatvat na satyam. So now that common example comes. Rajju drishta vyalavat swapnavatcha ithang drishyang sadhu yuktya vyapyoha gheyang paschat ekabhava tayo yaha. So nedang kalpitatvat na satyam. Na idam, again this twice. Why na idam? That whatever has been superimposed on Ishvara, that's what the first nedam means. Na idam means nedam. The second nedam, na idam, that what all has been superimposed on Jiva. This both, this what we have to do, eliminate. This Vyapohya means to eliminate everything which I see in totality. This drishyam, sadhu drishyam, that whatever in totality I am seeing, everything, this drishya has to be eliminated. All the things which has been superimposed has to be eliminated by proper reasoning. That's the yuktya. By reasoning, you have to eliminate, and then the identity of the Ishvara and Jiva can be understood. Eka bhava tayoya. So by the first idam, in nedam is to be understood the upadhis of the Ishvara. In the second nedam, the idam means the upadhis of the Jiva, that is the 5 sheaths. And this word negative is used twice to indicate that each of them must be eliminated in totality. And as a reference, here we find, even in Bhagavad Gita, in Shruti Shastra, even in Bhagavad Gita, we find that this idea is being mentioned. That in the second chapter, that idea is the na sato vidyate bhava, na bhava vidyate sata. That speaks of that identity, absolute identity with the Brahman. That the Sat, its existence can never be annihilated. And the thing, the world, which in essence doesn't exist, it can never be Sat. It can never be the truth. The truth alone is the thing which exists in all the three phases of time, past, present, future. When I am seeing, so here the example has been taken, this Rajju Drishtya Vyalavat. When I am seeing the snake, Vyala is the snake. When I am seeing the snake in the rope, does the snake remain always? No. It originated at particular time because of ignorance. In the twilight hours, that the light was not sufficient, I started seeing the snake, a rope as the snake. So it originated at particular time. And when someone brings the torch and says, oh, don't be afraid, it is just a rope, it is not a snake. And my ignorance is removed, apoha, vyahoha, it's removed. And then what happens? The snake vanishes. So the snake's existence is not there in all the phases of time, past, present and future. It originated at particular time and it has vanished. So it can never be the truth. So it is just like swapnavat, it is just like a dream. When I am dreaming, for me, the dream is truth. The moment I wake up, I know it was just a dream. So that's why these two examples, similes has been given. One is Rajju Drishta Vyalavat and another is a Sapnavatcha. And then Ithyang Drishyang Sadhu Yuktya Vyapohya Geya Paschat Eka Bhavatayoya. So this Gita, as we told, that's na sata vidyate bhava, na bhava vidyate sata. And that ultimately the consciousness alone is the reality. Even Bhagavan in Bhagavad Gita is saying, what is saying? Mameva ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. Maya. The thing which I am seeing, the way I am seeing the universe is not the reality. Is when the one who takes resort to me. So here the methodology, the sadhana is also spoken of. By resigning to the Lord, by taking His refuge, what happened? You can go beyond the Maya. In the words of Ramakrishna, this, if you want to go beyond the Maya, get hold of the Mayadhish, the one who is the controller of the Maya. Get hold of Him. So this all speaks that this world of duality is not the absolute reality. There is a way to go beyond that and to experience that identity of the entire existence. So if it were real, it wouldn't have disappeared. Even in Bhagavad Gita, this idea is there, that it is not there always. There's na sato vidyate bhava, na abhava vidyate sata. The sat, in sat there is no abhava. And asat, the one which is asat, it doesn't have any substance. It cannot be there in all the three phases of time. It disappears. But the thing which is the truth, ultimate truth, can never disappear. So all the things which I am seeing cannot be real because it disappears. The reality cannot disappear. So thus we find that like the serpent seen in the rope and like the object seen in a dream, neither of the aforesaid upadhis are real. So the upadhis, the superimposed upadhis on Ishvara and the superimposed upadhis on Jiva, both are unreal because they do disappear, they vanish. And that's why, thus by eliminating by proper reasoning, this based on Shruti, it's not that again, that it is something the Shankaracharya himself is devising. Based on the Shruti, all that is sin, the oneness of the two limitational aspects of the pure intelligence can be known. So what is the real aspect? The pure conscious principle alone. So that, this conclusion, that it is a pure consciousness which is the essence of the entire existence, which is non-dual, which alone exists, will be further elaborated in the succeeding verses. Just to conclude this class, we will just speak of a wonderful example spoken of by Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda, when he was in the West, he went to see the Niagara Falls. He was visiting the Niagara Falls. For the first time, he was visiting, and someone pointed him, just see Swamiji, this rainbow is always there. It is this Niagara Falls. Now because of pollution, at night we don't see the rainbow. In the olden days, even at night, even in the moonlit night, the rainbow was visible. So this rainbow is always there in the Niagara Falls. And listening to that and seeing the rainbow, Swamiji, he also, like Guru Maharaj, had a very sharp, keen power of observation. Immediately he had made a wonderful simile, seeing the Niagara Falls. He says, see, what is he saying? Just see, this rainbow is always there. It is like the Ishvara. This Niagara Falls is like this creation, this phenomenal existence. And the sun is like the Brahman. He's very interesting that as long as the Niagara Falls is there, it is flowing, the rainbow is there. When the Niagara Falls is not there, if it gets dried, the rainbow won't be there. But sun, it is always there. Whether the falls is there or not, the sun is always there. The sun is always there, but as long as the Niagara Falls is there, which is constantly flowing, it is a change. Niagara Falls, it is a flow. But again, you look at the rainbow, it is something constant. You don't see any flow there. It is something constant. So Ishvara appears to be something permanent. Why? Because something permanent is getting reflected in something which is a flow to give an impression of something impermanent. So that's why very nicely Swamiji is defining Ishvara, that God is the highest reading of the Absolute. Wonderful definition. Highest reading. So in this creation, everything is changing. But somehow we will find everyone, each and every being has an idea of something permanent. There is nothing permanent, but we all have an idea of something permanent. That's from which all the religions have evolved. That there must be something permanent from which this creation has emanated. And in this creation, I see nothing is permanent. But this idea that there is something permanent, that idea is also of the mind. That's not the real Brahman. So this idea of permanent, which is created in the mind, is the idea of the Ishvara, God. So that's why, how nicely Swamiji is saying that God is the highest reading of the Absolute. The Absolute, the sun, its highest reading in this phenomenal existence. I cannot realize it. I cannot go beyond the mind to see it. Through the mind, when I am seeing, the highest thing, what I see is actually everything is a flow. But what I can see in the flow as permanent, the rainbow, that's the thing, as a reflection. So that's the God. So God is the highest reading of the Absolute. So if you take away the upadhis, when this Niagara Falls is not there, the rainbow is not there, what alone remains? Brahman. The sun, it's always there. But as long as the Niagara Fall is there, the rainbow is there. When the fall is not there, the rainbow is not there. But the sun is always there. So na raja, na bhataka. But the conscious principle alone is there. That conclusion will be spoken of in the succeeding verses. So with this, we stop our discussion today. Thank you all. Namaskars.